Hello and welcome to Twin Flame Reality, the podcast for Twin Flames with your host, TF Reality. And just want to remind you, you can follow me on Twitter at TF Reality, and you can go over to twinflamereality.com and sign up for our newsletter so you can get information about our chats and other upcoming events and resources that I will be offering in the future. So today I'm going to have a different type of discussion podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about twin flames and the Mandela Effect. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is it's interesting. When I first started researching twin flames on YouTube and became part of, really started watching videos on YouTube, this was around the same time that I learned about the Mandela Effect and also started watching stuff on YouTube about the Mandela Effect. And I'm always like, I wonder if these two are connected, but I didn't really connect them closely myself. All right, so before I go on any further, for those of you who don't know about the Mandela Effect, what it basically is that a large number of people are noticing that they have different memories about things. And one of the big ones is the children's book, The Berenstain Bears. Most people remember it being Bernstein, like S-T-E-I-N is how you spell it at the end. But it's actually spelled Stain, S-T-A-I-N. So that's like the big one if you're experiencing Mandela Effect. And then, people try to say, well, it's just, we have bad memories, blah, blah, blah. It's your brain playing tricks on you. And the reason why it's called the Mandela Effect is because back, I believe it was 2010, there was a woman, I can't remember her name, Broomhilda or something. I have her name wrong. But she is a psychic or a medium, or she's an intuitive and really into the paranormal. But she was at a convention. I don't know if it was a Star Trek convention or one of those type conventions. A group of people were talking. And they're like, oh, I remember Nelson Mandela dying like in the 80s or early 90s. I remember him dying in prison. But back in 2010, in this reality, Nelson Mandela was still alive. And in this reality, people remember Nelson Mandela being released from prison, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, and then becoming president of South Africa. But there's a group of people, myself included, who remember him dying in prison in, late 80s, early 90s. I remember his wife, who ended up being his ex-wife, actually became president of South Africa. And it was interesting. I kept getting bombarded with things about the Mandela Effect. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I took the Are you experiencing Mandela Effect quiz? I'm like, yeah, I am. But it really didn't click. I'm like, I don't know. And then I was I started following a website called psychicfocus.com. And there's this woman she does psychic readings. And it was like different things I'd research. I type in the word psychic and I come up on her blog. So I started following her, and she was talking about the Mandela Effect. And I'm like, oh, well, let me look at it. Something else came up like on my Facebook feed about it. I'm like, oh, I am experiencing it. So I researched it a bit. And and they're explaining it, and it was the Mandela thing. I'm like, that's weird. How can people remember him dying in the 80s or 90s? And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. I remember that. I remember being in high school, and I graduated from high school in the early 90s. And I'm like, ooh, that's weird. So there's all these different things. People try to explain it away, but it's like logos. People remember logos differently. They remember songs. They remember movies. Like one of the big ones is from Star Wars. And I wasn't a big Star Wars fan, but, I grew up in that era. So all the males in my life were, and I knew what Star Wars was. Then people remember a part of the movie where Darth Vader says, Luke, I am your father. But supposedly, or in this reality, he doesn't say that. He says, no, I'm your father. So there's like a bunch of things. And if you're on YouTube, which I know a lot of you are watching this, listening to this on YouTube, you're a big part of the YouTube community. Some of you are listening on iTunes, the podcast. But there's a huge Mandela Effect community. And it's paralleling with the twin flame community. And October is when I started really connecting with both. I realized I was a twin flame just about a year ago. I think it was in May of 2016, but didn't, get into it. But it was like October. So it's like there's all these different theories about what the Mandela Effect is. The one I connect to the most is that we are jumping timelines, or we're remembering things from different timelines. And what is the timeline? It's hard to explain. It's like we're in a different dimension, parallel universe type of thing. I think people are somewhat familiar with that concept, that our soul is in parallel universes and dimensions in this point in time. Like we're all in the same point in time. Like it's 2017 in all of these parallel universes. And for some reason, which I don't think it's always happened on Earth or the human experience or whatever you want to call it, but now we are accessing multiple timelines. We're jumping in them, whether we're doing it in the 3D or awake, or if it's happening when we're asleep or whatever. And the interesting thing is that I really am like, okay, this is connected to the twin flame community because I've had some healings done over the past year. And, one of the things that I learned is that I'm in different timelines right now, and stuff happening in other timelines is affecting me in this timeline and my twin flame and all that. So I've been hearing the word timeline a lot. And as I mentioned before, I've been following soulsonmission.com. And if you haven't listened to her stuff, she's really fascinating. I relate to her a lot. She's talking a lot about different timelines. So I'm like, okay, there's something to this timeline thing and the twin flame thing. So I think it's really connected to the Mandela Effect. So I thought I'd do a video about it and just like, are you a twin flame who is also experiencing the Mandela Effect? If you are, vote the video up. If you're watching on YouTube, write a comment. If you're not watching on YouTube, go over to twinflamereality.com and comment under this post. Let me know. Or if you're on Twitter, let me know, are you experiencing the Mandela Effect? In one of the overlaps with the Mandela Effect in the twin flame community is what I found is a lot of the people who are experiencing the Mandela Effect and who are becoming part of the Mandela Effect community are also waking up spiritually on this ascension process. And this is one of the theories, one of the beliefs with the twin flames is that we're ascending to the fifth dimension or even higher. And when we come into union with our twin flames, we're going to ascend and we're going to raise the planet. And that's part of what people experience the Mandela Effect are going through, especially the ones who are waking up, who are getting connected to the Mandela Effect community, because there's a big one on YouTube, is that they're part of the ascension process. I'm really interested, like, how many people who are twin flames are also experiencing the Mandela Effect and vice versa? How many of the people who are experiencing the Mandela Effect, who are really into it, are twin flames or have had that intense spiritual connection with somebody? Because I think there's like I don't know. I think some of the people who identify as twin flames, they are the true twin flames, the 144,000. But it's also, I think there's a spectrum. I think there's people who are waking up and having that intense spiritual connection with someone who may not be an actual twin flame, who may not be the ones that are going to get into union and have that spiritual marriage and raise the vibration of the planet from the connection with your counterpart, your divine masculine, your divine feminine. But these are people who are gonna raise the vibration of the planet, are doing it right now. So it's really fascinating. I find this Mandela Effect stuff fascinating, and I'm like, okay, it's got to be related. It's synchronicity that I began connecting with both communities on YouTube around the same time. And and I've been getting, the dimensional jumping, the timeline jumping. I've been hearing that a lot from the twin flame, not a lot, but the people I resonate with talking about the jumping timelines. So I thought I'd just introduce this concept. If you are a twin flame experiencing the Mandela Effect, let me know. If you're experiencing the Mandela Effect and you're more connected to the Mandela community and you're kind of just learning about the twin flame community, or you think you might be a twin flame, let me know. Also, I am going to be having guests on Twin Flame Reality in the future. So if you're interested in being a guest, let me know. Contact me on Twitter, send me a DM. I will have my contact form up on Twin Flame Reality in the next few days. So you can contact me there. So I'd like to connect with the community, the Twin Flame community. It's not I'm not gonna be out there doing videos showing my face yet. It's interesting. The woman on Souls, oh my gosh, my mind went blank. Soulsonmission.com. It's funny. She started out on YouTube and then stopped doing the videos, and she was guided to do that because I think there's too much negativity. Even though it wasn't live, she was getting psychic attacks, and I'm like, so she was protecting herself. I'm like, oh, that makes sense to me too. I thought it was just more like, 3D world stuff where I'm like, I don't want people to see my face because I'm out on, they know who I am. And I'm like, no, it's more of me protecting myself spiritually because there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the world. Yes, we're light workers. We're here to raise the vibration, whether we're twin flames or whatever we are. But there's some dark entities, some dark forces who, I don't want to say they're evil. I'm not trying to put fear in people, but it makes sense when you're a light worker to put up some protection, to create a sacred space before you do any work, to put it out there. And it's almost like wearing a seatbelt when you drive a car, that type of thing. Every time you get in the car, you're not going to, manifest that you're getting into an accident or anything like that by living in fear. But you're being safe. You're saying, okay, something might happen. I'm going to protect myself by putting on a seatbelt. So it's the same thing with the twin flame community and why I'm not doing videos. It's a protection. And there's been some like negative energy out there. I know sometimes I've watched videos of people and all of a sudden I felt this like dagger come at me just from watching the videos, and I don't think that the person who's doing the video is psychic attacking me, but I think there's some weird energy out there. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not getting my face on video. It's to protect myself. But yeah, I know I went off a bit of a tangent, but with that, I do want to really connect to the twin flame community. I'd like to have people on my podcast, do interviews, do discussions. And this might be someone, if you're like me also, and you're not putting your face out there and you want to keep someone anonymous, you can come on and talk under a pseudonym or just first name. But I'm really looking to connect, and I'd really like to hear your feedback on the Mandela Effect. Or if you're not calling it the Mandela Effect, are you doing dimensional jumping, timeline jumping? Do you have different memories? So I want to thank you for listening, and remember to that you can subscribe on iTunes or YouTube, and check out twinflamereality.com. I just added a blog section, so all of the previous episodes you can access them through Twin Flame Reality, and I'll be adding articles and other resources in the coming days and months, and when I've been guided to do so. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day, and I look forward to reading your comments about twin flames and the Mandela effect.